All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Melanie Lytle, and I am the director of the MA in Cultural Sustainability here at Goucher College. Welcome to this informational session. Today, we're going to be focusing on the question why cultural sustainability matters. So, before we begin, Taylor, would you move to the next slide? I just have some quick advice for you. Closed captioning is available for this session by clicking on the CC button at the bottom of your screen. We are recording this, so if you prefer not to be on screen, you can simply turn off your video. We also ask that you just keep your microphone on mute until we open it up for questions and comments from the audience later in our session. But if a question comes up before we open it up, simply type it into the chat and we'll make sure that it's asked. And please feel encouraged. It's a nice group today. Communicate with each other using the chat function. I would suggest maybe you could start by chatting something about who you are and why you are here. Next slide. I have several colleagues and guests with me in this session. Behind the scenes is Taylor Seitzinger, who is our graduate student admissions counselor. I'll be sharing her email address at the end if you want to reach out to her about the admissions process. And in the meantime, she will be putting up various links in the chat to connect you to our resources. I also invited Amy Skillman, who is the recently retired director of the program, but who continues to be one of our core faculty members, thankfully. And after I give a brief overview of the MA in Cultural Sustainability program, she will be in conversation with one of our current students, Jon Engel, who is nearing the end of the program. And then we'll follow all that by questions from you all, if you have any, which I and Amy and Jon and Taylor will all be happy to answer. All that I'm going to talk about here can also be found on our website, which Taylor can put in the chat for you to have it for future reference if you decide to pursue your graduate studies with us. Next slide. Let's just start with who we are. We call Max short for MA in Cultural Sustainability, was founded in 2010, and it was the first program of its kind in the United States. And what I mean by that is that this program was the leader in establishing and defining the field of cultural sustainability, and we continue to lead it. Our faculty are professional practitioners, they're renowned scholars in the field. And the other component that makes us the first program of our kind is that we have been teaching in the hybrid format for 15 years. We just celebrated 15 years this summer. So we know how to engage you online. You will feel as if you are part of a community of scholars here. And very notably, all of our alums they're thought leaders, they're writers, they're educators, they're community leaders, and they are cultural advocates. Next slide. A lot of people, when I have my first conversation with them, go, can you tell me more about cultural sustainability? How do we define it here? And our guests, Amy and Jon, are probably going to share their own thoughts about this later in this session, but this is a general definition we use in this program. Cultural sustainability is an interdisciplinary field. We draw on anthropology and history and folklore, business, and even more. And it all combines to give you a holistic perspective that's grounded in ethical practice and humanitarian leadership. Cultural sustainability is focused on actively identifying, protecting, and enhancing cultural traditions of all kinds. And we do that through activism and fieldwork and academic scholarship, as well as grassroots communications, ultimately with the goal to ensure the viability of cultural traditions for future generations. We advocate for an action-oriented approach to cultural equity, and this is about making positive change in your communities. Next slide. So now the numbers. You can complete this program in as little as 2 years, and though many take 2.5, and some even take 3, we have, what I want to emphasize is that we have a lot of flexibility for you to go at your pace based on what you have going on in your life. You actually have 5 years if you need it. The degree program is 36 credits, and of those, 21 are required and 12 are electives. And the electives come from just a whole range of coursework. You can customize your education. We'll talk about the curriculum a bit more in a few slides. But you also will be taking management courses. We require everyone to take 6 credits, and that helps you build some professional skills, makes you a little more marketable when you leave the program. The last time we polled our alums, 87% reported that they were working in careers directly related to their cultural sustainability degree. And even those who have gone in other careers, they talk about the relevancy and the applicability of what they have learned to a wide range of career choices. Next slide. Our curriculum is designed for emerging cultural leaders. We seek to advance your professional lives. You can collaborate with communities in a world where cultural equity is threatened. Next slide. So let's talk a bit more about our curriculum. You can go to our webpage and see full descriptions of all of the courses that are available, but this gives you a sense of the ways that we apply the cultural lens, and you could apply the cultural lens to the work that you want to do, whether it's in arts or in healthcare or in community organizing, museums, education, even social science sector. You get to choose your electives to follow a track that strengthens your humanitarian leadership, paves the way to work in public humanities, or it guides you to create your own career. Next slide. So most students will take about 2.5 years to finish this program, and this is a sample of what those 2 years could look to you. Like I said, some can take 3 years, you can take 5. It all depends on your life, and we work with you to create a schedule that meets your needs. As a low residency program, one that's hybrid online and with annual residencies, all of our students come to a summer residency, and we have held those on our campus in Baltimore. We've also held them in other culturally rich places like Washington, D.C. this past summer and a couple winters ago. There are a few required courses that are only taught during our residency together. And so you will attend at least one. Many choose to participate in two because we often offer an elective. A lot of students enjoy and value that residency experience and they want to come back. So residency is your time to, enhance these experiential offerings that we offer. We use our host residency cities to allow you to meet face-to-face with other students and faculty. We share a lot of meals together. We go on site visits to places that are enacting cultural sustainability. This is your opportunity to brainstorm ideas for your capstone, because everybody in the program does one of those. And what your careers may look like, with a whole range of people who are exploring the ideas of cultural sustainability in a range of ways. Also, you start to build your cohort. These are the like-minded souls who you're going to be leaning on through your studies and many years into your career ahead. Next slide. If you're curious about the type of work that our students are producing out of this program, I encourage you to scan this QR code. It will take you to our collection of student scholarship, the student capstones. Some students come into the program knowing exactly what they want to do. But others, most, I would say a lot of us have a vague sense of that culture is an important part of being human. And they're looking for guidance to build a career that allows them to do this cultural work. So our students range in age from fresh out of undergrad to people looking for second careers. And this range in age is really enriching because you're able to intermingle fresh ideas, this idealism of the younger students with the experience of the folks who have been out in the world. The conversations in our classes are really rich and varied as a result. Next slide. So this chart and list gives you an idea of where our graduates are working. As I mentioned, like nearly 90% have found full or part-time employment. 10% are pursuing other options, like they're getting a PhD or they're starting their own business. Many of our graduates are innovative, they're creative, they have invented careers in sectors that are important to them. And this is just a glimpse of the types of things that people are doing with what they have learned in the program. Next slide. So though we are mostly online, we offer many experiential opportunities that we think are essential to your education. For instance, our field school in Nepal, which our guest Jon was part of, and Amy and I got to co-lead this last January, was something that we were able to interdisciplinary explore the impacts of climate change. So we also had our historic preservation students, we had environmental sustainability and management students, yes, same overalls, Jon, with a focus on climate change and how families and communities are responding. So it's this intermingled course. We spent 2 weeks all over Nepal. And so this is the sort of course we're hoping to go back in 2027. Goucher has asked us to look into Bhutan as a backup, so we might be in Bhutan. We'll see. It could be a very exciting opportunity. But these sorts of this type of field school allows us to pursue that interdisciplinary work that's so important to the Max program and gives you as a student this opportunity to have hands-on experiences applying what you're learning. Next slide, please. Obviously, residency is a big part of your experiential experience. Like I said, we spent a week together in Washington, D.C. this last year. We visited museums, we met with curators, and several students through this work that we've done in DC and elsewhere have actually managed to get internships. So it's a key component to your education. The internships, a little bit more about that. We have relationships with the Smithsonian, with NCTA, with some other, like American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. We will work to identify an organization that you may want to connect with that contains some key thought leaders in the world of cultural sustainability and get you some credit for what can be a really inspiring and enriching experience. Next slide, please. So tuition, based on the current tuition, is about $41,000 nowadays, including residency and technology fees. For your travel and lodging for residencies is on your own, so it's a little additional beyond that, but thankfully it's eligible for financial aid. Most of our students do choose to use some form of financial aid. We have an amazing support staff to help you with that. Payment plans are available if you don't want to take loans. But scholarships have just gotten quite a bit simpler to receive. We recently updated our process, and we can notify you right away by the admissions staff will do so if you have received a scholarship. No extra applications, no extra essays to apply, and these can be like a 10 to 20% discount on your tuition. So a fairly significant assistance. Next slide. I encourage you, if any of this interests you, to contact me or contact Taylor for questions about the admissions process. Taylor is great. She can get you right through, what the admissions form and all the paperwork you need to submit and how to go about that smoothly. If you have questions about the program itself, our curriculum, our faculty, what it's like to be a student here, or if you'd like to connect with an alum, for instance, and you can reach out to me. And we're both happy to meet with you individually. So that's a very quick overview, but I wanted to make sure that you had all this information going into this conversation, which is the second part of our session. I am going to hand the room over to Amy Skillman, who, as I mentioned, was our longtime director of Max. She just retired this summer, but thankfully she continues to be intimately involved in the program. She's one of our core faculty members. Amy is also the current president of the American Folklore Society. We are so proud of her. Her current research and writing relates to women sea captains' storm stories. So we're all eagerly waiting the book that's going to come out of this. And Jon Engel, who's nearly finished going through the program, is the Heritage Arts Coordinator and Creative Leadership Project Assistant at Rivers of Steel in Pittsburgh, which is a place and an organization that showcases the artistry and innovation of Southwestern Pennsylvania's industrial and cultural heritage. So I've invited them both here, Amy, to sort of speak with Jon about his experience in the program and also exchange some ideas about why cultural sustainability matters. Amy, Jon?
Oh, Amy, you're muted.
Yes,
There
got
you go.
that. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Melanie. That was a great overview of the program. That the person at the top of that human tower on the Smithsonian, on the internship slide with all the people holding her up, that's Daniela Panetta, and she graduated from our program probably about 4 years ago now. And that was part of her internship experience working with the Italian community that was brought over from Italy to participate in the Smithsonian Folklife Festival. And she got to be the top of the human tower, which I just love that image of her. I think it's really great. So, yeah, so I'm excited to be able to have this conversation with Jon. Jon is, as Melanie said, currently finishing up his program with us. You've completed all the coursework and you're working on your capstone. And maybe we can talk a little bit about the capstone process too. I don't think I originally thought about that as a question, but why don't we start, Jon? It's really great to see you, by the way. I just saw Jon a week or so ago at the American Folklore Society annual meeting. So it's great to see you. So why don't,
Likewise.
why I've known you for several years now, in a couple of different capacities, but why don't you talk a little bit about what drew you to the program? Why did cultural sustainability seem like the right choice for a graduate school for you?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Melanie, for the introduction because you, I definitely didn't write that. You made me sound much more impressive than I am. Um, yeah, well, honestly, Amy, to your question is how I ended up in the program. It was because of you that you may remember this. We were both at the American Folklore Society annual conference in Harrisburg. That must have been like what, 4 or 5 years ago,
I think it's
2021.
2021. Yeah.
Yeah. And I met Rory Turner, who is one of the other professors in the program, and he very heavily recommended Goucher's Max program to me. And he was like, "Oh, you should come do this immediately." And then the next morning I ran into you and said, "Oh, I met this guy and he was really firm that I should go to his grad school." And you were like, "Yes, you should. It's also mine." Um, and then we just talked about it for maybe about the course of a year through, working together. And I think I already have a job in the arts, particularly in folk arts and community research. And what I recognized in speaking to you and Rory and everyone else affiliated with Goucher was here are people who have done things I want to do in the world that have knowledge and talent in that I could learn from, not only how to do my job as it exists, but to aspire to real impactful change in people's lives. So I was, yeah, really drawn to that mentorship.
Oh, that's great. And I love that you are in a position to kind of weave folk and traditional arts and community organizing and industrial heritage
Mhm.
into an occupation, into some real work that you're doing, which is I think it's really exciting work that you're doing.
Yep.
So as as you think back over the last couple of years that you've been in the program, do you have any thoughts about particular moments of strength of the program for you? Like what made maybe something about this program that that not only drew you because of the topic, but what do you see as the strengths of the program for you? A little
I
bit of a
think
leading question.
no, you're fine. I think the greatest strength that I have seen is the relationships between people, both between the students and the staff and the students themselves. Like, Melanie, I like the way you put it of like the people that you are in class with will be your cohort, right? They will be people that you have good, at least in my experience, like strong friendships with. And that's not just because of like the curriculum, but just who is drawn to the program. These are people that are very motivated to serve the communities that they come from and are very curious about other communities. And so everyone I've met, whether they are staff or student, has been very not only open and sharing, but open to like forming friendships with and imagining things together. And so that's been probably the greatest benefit to me has been having space with people that I admire talking about all kinds of diverse things, but in a way that is generative for all of us. And then, of course, the curriculum is a huge supporting mechanism for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great. You know, it's interesting that as a program that is largely online and virtual, that you do find such a strong cohort of people to be with. I mean, we've had people be in each other's weddings, you know, and move to be near each other or collaborate on developing projects together after they've graduated. So it's, you know, do you have any thoughts about why is it the is it the character of the people that come into the program that makes that happen despite, I mean, because, you know, we sometimes think that online learning can be sort of alienating and you know, some people have that perception that online learning can be um, lonely, right, and alienating. But
Mm,
what you're describing is a real sense of community, which I love, and I feel that myself. But I
yeah.
just wondered if you have any thoughts about how it is that we're actually able to pull that off. Is it the
But
residency? Is it what?
yeah, I mean, I think as you say, it's partly people's character that like the people who are drawn to this program want this kind of environment, right? They want to create community in anywhere they are. I think partly it is the residency and all of the other opportunities to meet face to face. But even in the sort of, strictly Zoom based or Teams based, online classes, um, you're in deep conversation with people about things that you're all invested in and invested in different ways. Like people that I've had classes with people from around the world. I've had classes with people from very different circumstances than myself, but we are able to communicate about our differences in a way that is really mutually enriching. And I think that produces those bonds no matter what the medium that you're communicating through is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that your recognition of the diversity of even the students in the program. They come from so many different perspectives and backgrounds and reflect in so many ways the diversity of society as a whole, right? Our,
Yeah.
you know, being, yeah. So, um, okay, so Melanie gave, you know, a great definition of cultural sustainability when she was doing her overview. But when you think back on this concept, this approach of cultural sustainability, think back on your time in the program.
Mm.
How do you understand, what do you understand cultural sustainability to mean? Has it changed for you since you started in the program until now? Has it, like, what do you, what do you understand it to be? And then we'll talk about why it matters.
To me, I think cultural sustainability as like a felt experience is something that I recognize when I am sharing an art or a piece of my life and culture with a child, and you can see their eyes light up. And I mean that as like it's a really deeply felt, deeply personal sharing, not just from one generation down, but across generations and across communities, that produces closeness. Which that's a very emotional answer. In a more functional way, I think like something I've learned a lot from this program is not only deepening my appreciation of that emotion, but how that is implemented across a variety of fields and communities and structures. My background is in a ethnographic research and arts education type of work, but I had classes with people who were historians or political organizers or government bureaucrats or just individuals who care about some community they're part of and don't necessarily have a formal role in some organization within that community. And so seeing seeing how they have that feeling and that inheritance and that exchange in a variety of different contexts has really deepened my understanding intellectually and emotionally of that process.
Hmm. So, Melanie shared that one slide that shows the kinds of courses that we have, which and the kinds of which is a suggestion of the kinds of skills and perspectives that are taught in the program. Um, in what ways, maybe we can talk, I can get into the nitty-gritty about those skills and perspectives and how you are finding them relevant in your work and
Yeah.
or in society today, sort of why does this matter? Like, how does this work?
Um, do you mean like specific courses, specific skills,
Well,
or just as a broad
yeah,
field?
maybe specific skills. I mean, let's give the listeners a sense of what are you learning? Like,
Yeah.
what have you learned, and how are you applying it?
Well, there are some classes that, like, by the nature of my job, I have put directly into use. For instance, your oral history class, I collect oral histories, both as part of my job and as part of like just my way of being. So, as we were going through that class, as you know, like I was doing it in live action as it was happening.
Mhm.
Um, and that's because that's what my role in my community is right now. But everyone has some thing that they will learn in this curriculum that will have that same immediate action component in their life, whatever you're doing right now. Other classes like cultural policy, for instance, I'm not in government work. I'm not involved in policy making really at all, but I've learned an appreciation for how those processes work, where I can have a conversation with, say, a state arts council and understand better where they're coming from. Or, um, all, all of these classes, especially when they get specific, provide us a way to understand other people as well as apply those skills in our lives. And then, the more broad sort of theoretical classes like community-based research or intro to cultural sustainability, like so much of what I found valuable there was just life lessons and values and philosophies that you could carry into anything.
Ways of being in the world,
Yeah.
in some ways. Yeah, yeah. We talk about that a lot. Who are you being? And who do you want to become in this liminal moment of graduate school, right? And what are you on the other side? um, I love that you talked about sort of the actionable your live action applications of some of the courses, because I think a lot of our courses in our program do that.
Mhm.
They encourage students to reach out and find ways to apply this work in the work they're doing or in the communities where they're living. And I hear that often um, as a value of being able to do that while under the guidance of somebody that can help you make sure you don't make any really foolish mistakes while you're doing that, right?
Well, I still do it, but I appreciate the help anyways.
Yeah. I also love that you talked about cultural sustainability as a thought experiment, because it is in some ways, it's I think a thought experiment that has evolved out of a time in our society where we recognize that we don't live in a one size fits all world, and how awful that would be if we did.
Yeah.
And how do we? I think Rory Turner's article talks about raising this notion of kind of radical empathy, radical critical empathy. That
Hmm.
it's a time now where we need that kind of radical critical empathy to be able to really figure out how to work with communities and support their efforts for agency and honor their local knowledge and that sort of thing. So I'm just kind of riffing off what you said to share a little bit about my thoughts
Yeah.
about why cultural sustainability matters at this moment in time. And this idea of cultural equity, this sort of it's a thought experiment in the sense that can we achieve this? Like, how do we begin to shift the paradigm, right? To a way of working with community and being with communities where um, we can achieve cultural equity without doing harm to any community. So, I mean, it feels to me like a critical moment in time for this
Yeah.
kind of an approach. So two other quick questions, and then I think we should open it up for questions from the group. One is, do you have any reflections you want to share on your trip to Nepal, since you did get to do that?
Um, it was one of the most tremendous experiences of my life. Both because I know people in Pittsburgh who are from that area and I got to meet like their families, and because it's so incredibly different from anywhere I've been. And yet at the at the end of the day, everyone is kind of the way I've been telling people is like everyone is a Yinzer. Everyone acts like my grandpa on some level. So there is still a great capacity for intimacy. I don't know. I'm still puzzling it out as I will be for the rest of my life, but it
Yeah,
was tremendous.
yeah. Yeah, it was tremendous for me too to be with it. I love the kind of interdisciplinary nature and the fact that we
Yeah.
had people from so many perspectives looking at and understanding the role of culture in these larger questions of environmental sustainability and climate change and historic preservation and that sort of thing. So, and
Yeah.
vice versa, people recognizing the interdependence, I think, of all of these disciplines. And that's one thing I love about this program. So my last question is, do you have any advice for prospective students who are thinking about this program or thinking about grad school in general that you feel like sharing?
Yeah. What I would say, and I think this applies to all of grad school, I think, but especially to this program. What I have found to be most important is to reflect within yourself what, kind of like what you were saying to me, what do you want to be doing? Because if you're here right now on this call, you have something, right? Whether it's a specific project yet or not, you have some way that you want to be in the world, and probably a specific group of people in mind or groups of people that you want to be that way towards. And like all of the assignments that I did in some way were motivated by what I already knew about myself or was learning about myself. And I think that was really important to me in terms of how I connected to the material and connected to others and applied it in my life was going, why do I care about this? And there is an answer there for everyone and
Yeah,
everything.
great. That's a loaded question. I'm not going to ask you that. So I was going to say, how about favorite classes or classes to avoid? But that's a question
I
for the
can I can never tell you that.
right. So yeah, Melanie, how about we open it up and see if anybody
Yeah.
that's on the call.
Yeah, if
Thank you so
anybody,
much, John.
yeah,
I really appreciated your perspective. I've always enjoyed talking with you about things in the world, and
Was.
you're very articulate. So yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, for those of us who have joined us, you're welcome to unmute and ask your question directly, or if you're more comfortable to put something in the chat, you can do it that way as well. And depending on the question, we can decide who probably could give the best answer. But we are very grateful you're here. How can we help? How can we help you figure out if this may be a good fit for you?
I have a question.
Sure.
Hello, my name's Nikia, and I came on this because of a workshop about burial ceremony or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
great.
um, but I was just wondering, I'm a single mom right now, and I'm just wondering about financial assistance and if that happens,
Sure.
or what that looks like, if it's available or possible.
Yeah, absolutely. At graduate school, financial aid, at least federal financial aid, comes in the form of loans. But we try to make that easier for you. For instance, we have scholarships that are available, and we've just updated our process so that they're automatic. So when you are accepted, we'll let you know what scholarship you have also received, and that can be a 10 to 20% discount on your tuition.
Don't
And
listen,
then,
John.
we and I and your other faculty are going to do our best to help you identify other funding sources, scholarships that you may be eligible for, and those opportunities. And we can serve as your references and your guides to do that. If you're trying to avoid federal financial aid, we also have payment plans. I encourage you, it depends on who your employer is, but a number of employers have some sort of tuition reimbursement option. It's always worth asking about that. And I don't know, Amy, you may have some other successful routes that recent students have taken that you could add. If not, Taylor, you may also have something to add.
Well, I do know that I've often directed people toward their local community foundations because local community foundations often have funds that are set aside specifically for people for sometimes it's specifically for people of color to go to graduate school. It might be specifically for women to do STEM kind of research, or so it's worth looking into the range of scholarships or grants that you can get from a local community foundation and see if there's a way. I mean, there's one. I know several years ago somebody was able to get funding for being a non-traditional student, which meant that they were an older single mom, right? So, and I think the other thing, just because older single mom is not an unusual student in our programs, across all of our programs, we also really love to work with you to make sure that you have an academic schedule that fits that, and that fits your needs. The other thing I'll say is our classes are small enough that often our faculty poll the students at the beginning of the semester and say, okay, what's the best day of the week for you all to meet? And, or is it best to meet on a weekend, or should we meet at noon, or that kind of thing. So there's a lot of that sort of personal customizing flexibility. But I don't know, Taylor, you might have something else about financial aid that you want to add. Melanie did a great job of summarizing it.
Yeah, you all covered it beautifully, but as Melanie mentioned, federal aid within the graduate level is primarily subsidized loans. The nice thing about this program is that that number that Melanie gave at the beginning, that 41,000, is not something that's like expected all up front. It does not get broken into semesters. We price per credit. So how many classes you take a semester is how much you're going to be paying for. So if you have a set budget for how much you're able to put towards a program throughout the courses of a semester, that's how many classes you can enroll in. So if you are not able to take like 7 classes all in a semester, completely understandable for a budget. You're able to have a very flexible schedule. That's why you have up to 5 years to complete this program for that flexibility. Melanie will be able to work with you to build out a curriculum plan that can meet the needs not only of financial, but also just of your life and what you're able to manage along with other responsibilities. That payment plan can be utilized for those tuition, as Melanie mentioned. So that's my only other addition, is that it's priced per credit. And I shared earlier in the chat the tuition and fee breakdown, so I can tell you how much that price per credit would be. And for our remote sessions in spring, that residency fee is not applied. So just a little note about that as well.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
thoughts.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you, and welcome back.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you were in Corey's the workshop that Corey did on
Yeah,
yeah, it was great. It was so great. He's amazing.
I have no clue why, but I feel like I was meant to be there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
Well, follow up, reach out to Melanie and have a conversation about your specific interests and stuff. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions, comments? I see John's. Yeah. Corey may cry. That's true. All right. Well, any final thoughts from our guests, Amy, John?
I guess I would say, I said this earlier, and I think it's very true of everyone I've ever met in this program. If you are here in this room, it is because you have something that you want to do. And, you know, I think that everyone in the Max program is very helpful in realizing other people's projects collaboratively as well. Whether you join this program or not, I'm excited to see what you'll do in the world.
Yeah, thank you, John.
I think my only added thought is that the Max program for me just feels like coming home. It feels like finding people with like-minded passion for culture and passion for kind of the evolution and the creating the space for cultures to thrive, and or employing a kind of cultural lens on the work that they do. But there's just such passion among the students that is kept me coming back for 15 years. I mean, it really valuable. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you, John, for taking the time out to join this session. Thank you, all of our guests, for participating. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm available to chat. Taylor is as well. If you can just drop me an email as well, we can communicate that way. But I hope to see your names soon in other formats, like an application or in an appointment request. So please do reach out, and we can chat more about what Max could be for you. So, all right. Well, thank you all. I wish you a good rest of the week, and I hope to see you again at a future webinar. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.